What do I want to say with this story? Yeah? What do you want to say with this story? What do you think? What do you think with this story? I think running away is what I want to say with this. You know, change is possible. Fuck me, man. I could see it in everybody's eyes that they were just like, we're not gonna make it. And then everyone's still treating it like, you know what? We'll just see. And I'm like, no. Like, in my mind, I get it. I see what you guys are telling me. I'm not gonna let myself believe we're gonna make the date now.
The gods of Olympus have abandoned me.
Revolutionized the gaming industry with its epic storytelling, jaw-dropping action sequences, not to mention a quick and brutal lesson on Greek mythology.
Ares! Burn this village! Burn it to the ground!
We're talking about one of the most iconic characters in the history of video games.
Yeah, it's an ass-kicking game. It is.
So I don't know what the demographic is of women that play these games as opposed to men. I'm guessing that the ratio is probably like 9 to 1.
I bring the destruction of Olympus.
Ladies and gentlemen, the creative directors of the God of War franchise. What exactly does a game director do?
That's just pure carnage from start to finish.
Very early on, he or she has to be able to play the game from beginning to end in their head.
Grabbing people and throwing people around, and like you get that sense of empowerment, you know, like nothing can stop you.
Especially in the first God of War, when nobody, with the exception of a couple of us, had any idea what it was.
So to me, a God of War game is about the action, it's about the rage.
I was a god in the beginning, and then I was put down, and then I came back and destroyed everybody.
On God of War 2, he expanded the story of Kratos, deepening the saga and turning it into a legend. Please welcome Cory Barlog.
A lot of the time, we have no clue what we're talking about. I mean, there are a lot of leaps that you make in this job where you're like, all right, look, I kind of know what I want, but sometimes you're discovering as you go.
So how did you guys become game directors?
For me, it was just that Cory quit.
Thing. Yeah, I quit, so he quit, so I got it. So really, all you gotta do is find somebody to quit.
I pledged an oath in blood.
God of War 1, about a guy who puts everything aside for work, and he loses his wife, and he loses his kid.
Pain is all I have left.
Hello, Kratos.
Few games embody the definition of epic quite like God of War, so it's disappointing that the release of Ascension brings with it a whiff of a series that's treading water rather than driving forward.
So I guess killing people solves problems is not really going to go over so well. Oh, where am I sitting? No, Cory with an E is sitting here. Cory without an E isn't sitting at this table. Oh, that is embarrassing. That is embarrassing. I am an 80s television star. But that's all right. We'll let this one slide. Maybe.
Thank you, sir.
For me, this was a very long journey. We were in a tough time within the studio, and there was a lot of emphasis that we as a team were putting on rebooting this franchise and what does that mean. And there's a lot of risk just in that one sort of concept. Reboot is, as Cory and you guys know, it's not as easy as it sounds.
Okay? First position, playback, action, and then cut, reset. We will do our thing, and then go back into first position, playback, action. Does anybody want to write that down for me? Because I feel like I'm going to mess it up.
Before he came back to the studio, I could tell he was a completely different person. He had gotten married, was a father, and he was telling a completely different story just, you know, as Cory Barlog.
Legend or myth or something like that? Shannon, where did you get this wonderful lawn turtle?
I don't know.
Did it just appear?
Show up? Yeah.
No, you still haven't cracked the mystery of nobody came out?
No one
claimed
it. Somebody stuck it in my garden and it's just been there.
Do you know what that means?
I don't.
Appearance of a turtle in your garden. You lie. I have no idea. I was trying to stall to come up with something interesting. When I came back to Santa Monica, we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do. I know that what we wanted to do was not going to just be make another God of War game. Knowing that, we knew that same old Kratos, rage-filled, crazy guy, was not going to work. And I kind of started thinking about this idea that if Kratos ever got a second chance, you know, this idea of like when I had a kid, I feel like my perspective on everything changed. Hello. Hey, all right. Hi. Do you want to come over and see what Papa? Come on. We'll go over here. We'll go call action. Can you say action?
Action.
Action. See, he's learning.
Success means the world to Santa Monica Studio. I mean, this is something that, hold on, my pocket's buzzing.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
You're
sorry.
definitely keeping that.
It was Shannon's idea to go find Cory again and bring him back as one of the original vision holders of the whole world that was God of War, and give him time to really try to come up with, how do we reinvent this franchise? How can we just make it not just bigger and better and the same, but bigger and better and different?
After Ascension, they did this thing to check how the audience felt about God of War, right? The overwhelming vibe was that they were done with Kratos. You know, Kratos either needed to go away or needed a fresh start.
Kratos needs a fresh start. You know, if you see the picture, if you can see all the way in the back, that face is exactly what people think of Kratos right now, which is just like, ah! You know, like there's no like intelligent conversation like that. You just like rip your head off. Like, how do you feel, Jake? And you just rip your head off. Like there's one dimension to this character which was awesome as the anti-hero of the first game, but it didn't really grow. We didn't go anywhere with it.
First day back was at Penn Station in Santa Monica. Everybody was doing prototypes, they were doing concept art, and they had kind of a pitch for Internal 7, the other game.
I was very excited, partly because I had been on God of War 1, 2, and 3, so I was ready for something new. And I was very excited that it was going to be futuristic, they're going to have guns, we're going to do something completely different.
Internal 7, they were in pre-production for probably close to 36 months. Shortly after that period, they needed to inherit the Ascension team and really put the pedal to the metal.
This studio is the DNA of God of War. As we start to push this thing forward, you guys are focusing pretty much 100% on this other project that will be our new original IP.
But yeah, the first time was getting everybody up there while they were still working on the other project. And I think it was, a lot of people were wondering what we were doing because it was a small team and it was just high vision, like what are we gonna do? And really kind of just throwing a bunch of stuff at the board.
Leadership had made some decisions around the growth of the studio and how we would remain competitive And one of those decisions was turning ourselves into what we called a 1.5 team. And that would mean that you would have 2 larger IP development going on within the roof of Santa Monica Studio, and those teams would share resources back and forth.
And the theme of the day is trying to keep quiet during the tour. Lots of reverb in there.
So we have a whole area. Offices will come along here. Offices will be along this wall. Over on this side, we're gonna have the focus test room right over here.
Incubation team, we just walked through the new incubation area.
We have full-fledged recording studio set up.
Green room for the talent that comes in to record for our games.
And as you come this way, having a projection screen that will be able to come down. So we'll have our all hands.
All hands in this space, again, similar to what we do in Studio A.
Executive boardroom for meetings.
As you're winding, you can look over the railing. It's a really different perspective on the space as a whole. That's my guide.
Everyone applaud Shannon for her great tour guide work.
Thank you guys all for coming. I think this is a crazy great opportunity. I'm sure all you guys are totally overwhelmed like I am with how incredibly large this place is. But I think it just shows that Sony has a really deep commitment to Santa Monica Studios, and we want this place to grow, and we want you guys to be someplace special.
Opportunities like this don't come very often. I'm very honored to be here with you guys today in our new home with the team that is going to be the future of Sony Santa Monica. Cheers.
You want me to talk about what it would be like if it failed?
Well, I mean, yeah, just
Yeah.
like it, really where it comes from is
Yeah.
what's at stake, because it's like
Yeah.
that's part of the business. You know,
It
what's
is
at
part of the business, and you know, if any franchise were to fail on on an epic scale, like just not deliver at all, of course there'd be ramifications.
Gaming here with IGN News. Layoffs unfortunately hit Sony Santa Monica studio today. The Sony-owned exclusive developer, founded in 1999, is best known for its God of War games. The extent of the damage remains unclear, though there are indications that one of the projects the studio was working on has been canceled alongside this round of layoffs. Sony has provided the following statement to IGN. SCEA can confirm that we have completed a reduction in workforce at Santa Monica studio.
You know, I think it ended up being a dream that died, literally, in that moment.
It's one of the hardest things you'll ever do in development is when you sink your heart and soul into something and you realize it's not coming together the way we wanted it to. We need to shift gears and restart. That was kind of the abyss for that team.
So that was pretty devastating in many ways. You know, one of the many big appeals of coming here was to work on a new IP on a small team. So I actually joined that in-7 team when it was about 20 people. So that was a very, very difficult time for me. So, yeah.
But for us, we kind of had our heads down. We were just like, okay, we had a timeline, and that timeline felt pretty good. That other game was going. We were kind of like, okay, cool, we'll kind of trail them, draft, know when we can get people on. And then when things were not working out, and kind of the big sort of halt happened on the project, we had to suddenly say, we're about to get 110 people. I had to figure out how to keep them busy and figure out now, beyond just the concept of the game, but how are we gonna, what's the new pipeline? What's the engine? It was in a dire position, right? Because you're in that state where you don't have anything to keep people busy, but we were in no way ready for 110 or 120 people that we inherited.
We were just trying to like basically do mental push-ups to be ready for the team. And then all of a sudden they just got delivered on our doorstep about 8 to 9 months early. And it was like, what are we gonna do now? And it was just scrambling, you know? And then there's a lot of mistrust right out of the gate because they're like, what have you guys been doing over here? You don't know what game we're making? And we're like, you guys are like early.
It was very difficult, but we had to push on, you know? And I think we had to find the positivity out of it and figure out how we can kind of collect everybody again.
I think for me, it was just that, again, perseverance of coming in here and putting one foot in front of the next to make sure that tomorrow is a good day for everyone.
We have been through some pretty tough times here, but we are confident in our foundation and we're building on that. We are in a reset phase with the new studio.
This probably won't make the final cut, but I like this location. I prefer this. The new, this, you know, this will all be lovely, but this is I'm fond of this place.
It's pretty bittersweet. It's sad in some ways to be leaving the studio. You know, it's such a great place where so many great games are made.
This big, open, collaborative space. We realized we couldn't keep it throughout the whole building and have that same feel, so moving makes sense.
It feels like a new chapter. We're making a new style of game. You know, it's going to be a good symbolic break and a new beginning.
New generation, new facility, new logo, all coming together here and now. And it starts the future of the business that we so love. Well, the business is growing, and we feel face-to-face communication and dialogue is really critical to our collaborative nature.
Well, I mean, definitely we'll miss some things about the old building. We went through a lot there, but I think this is I feel re-energized, you know, to be honest. I feel like, you know, I just feel pumped up for whatever's going to be next.
The inspiration is definitely in the building now. I mean, we have to step up and make something fantastic because we're in a fantastic place.
For me, I wasn't coming to work at Sony. I was coming to work on that franchise. You know, when I played God of War 3, I was so excited about it. I just wanted to be part of that.
You know, if you're making a fighting game or a sports game, you build a team around what you need. And we had a team of people who loved God of War and a team of people who want to build that kind of game.
You know, honestly, for me, I totally thought that we had to throw it all out and we had to find a new hook for this game, something that could anchor everything that we were doing, but something that could also show that there's some change in all of it. And I'm not as creative as I would love to believe, so I always just pull things directly from my life. So I thought it was a totally clever idea to have Kratos be a dad and try to actually be a dad rather than use it as like a cutaway cinematic to describe whatever past he had. It is such a departure for Kratos when the first thing you talk about is him being a dad, right? And his previous experience with being a dad was, you know, murdering his family. And that definitely gives people pause. I think the remainder, or the rest of the studio, the rest of the team, we had really worked together, this core group of like 11 people, to find the best sort of version of what we were talking about. Initially, it wasn't even gonna be his kid. Like, I think the first pitch I gave was that we wouldn't even know what was happening. So it was like Kratos walking through the desert, because we were, in my mind, still doing Egypt initially. Wind, sand blowing all over the place as he's kind of crawling through. And then kind of stands up and crests over a dune and checks out this really fantastic, like, this ancient city. And then he kind of turns around and then says, all right, follow me. And then we kind of reveal that there's a kid there.
We have a long journey ahead.
I think it was very little. It just at least got the spark. And then that was like, oh, wait, you know, we should do this. We should try this. We should do this.
I was all in on some of it, but the sun thing, like, not at first. Definitely not at first. Just mainly because, like, from my perspective, it's like I'm trying to think of, like, combat and what we can do next, and then I see this tiny kid running around Kratos, and I'm like, my God, it's like all he's gonna do is slow him down, all he's gonna do is make things hard, and nobody wants that in the game.
Rolling. You ready to kill a deer? Get your first knife?
Yeah.
Get in combat?
Mm-hmm.
Probably do some extra combat stuff. I think you're also gonna jump off of a box into John's arms. So, we just need you to do a backflip. Can you do a backflip?
Actually, yes.
Really? I was totally kidding. You can do a backflip?
Yes, I can.
Wow.
When I first did the audition, I thought it was a movie because it was just like some dialogue right there, and I was like, okay, it's just like a movie. And we just did like a fire scene or something like that, which I barely remember. No, we didn't do history today.
But you do that sometimes.
Yeah.
Basically, when we actually present the game to the executives, this screen will be sitting on the television. It'll just be your face sitting at the fire, looping. And I'll be talking to them, and then when we actually start the game, I'll press a button, and that's when you'll hear your dad call you. So I'll press the button, and it'll be like, boy. So it'd be kind of cool.
And then I get the role, and then I go to like San Diego or something like that, and then all of that, and I'm like, wait, what? And it's like a game, and it's God of War, and I'm like, what? And I'm like super excited, but I was like really confused. And it was just a bunch of emotions going through me.
It doesn't go on Facebook, by the way, or the internet ever.
Yeah, I think Sunny wins that round for sure.
What do you got?
Gotta go like here?
Yeah. You're just gonna. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Okay, right into the belly.
Or this. Yeah. I actually did that yesterday, where I'm supposed to get really mad at Kratos.
Like anger.
Ah!
More.
More?
More. Give it to me.
Okay. Ah!
Good.
Yeah, I just scream really loud. It's really funny.
Okay, Sonny. Loop.
Boy.
What for?
So remember that you just killed that thing. It's not alive anymore. If it's got kids, they're all alone. So think through that. It sucks. I know, right? Use that. Okay.
I can't.
Quiet.
The vision for getting that kind of narrative tone, no camera cuts, like getting all that stuff up and running, especially as well with like a buddy AI with the sun and having him lead the way properly, having him kind of move correctly. And, you know, I mean, the vision was so clear, but it was also pretty ambitious. And at that time, we didn't really have a lot of that working.
It was fucking bad. It was just a mess, right? It was like 12 different ideas, you know, all at once. It was too much, and nobody was really sort of giving an inch.
Okay, well, now what does that mean? Well, that means you go back to the drawing table and you do it again. And, you know, we've had even, I think, a shoe visit a little while ago in March where the second he left the room, I was like, that was not good. There's something that in his facial expression that is telling us there's an issue here. And then, you know, Shannon calls a little while later and says, Shu had some notes.
He was not happy, but I don't think I read exactly how unhappy he was. I was not very perceptive on that one, and it was Carlo who ran into him, and Shuhei starts telling him. I was horrified how bad it was.
I think the team, you know, rightfully so, gets nervous when they hear like, oh, Shu's playthrough, you know, was not all positive, right? And people start to say, well, what does this mean? What does this mean? And it means we gotta solve this problem, right? Like we do every single day. And
like, this is a really big guy in Sony, and he did not have a very good experience. And I still was under the impression it was not a very good experience, not horrified. Horrified how bad it was. I think that he probably walked out of that room that first time going like, what the hell did we do? We just gave this guy a lot of money to make this game. Did we make a mistake?
Run. Run far away from me.
But you have changed. You're not a monster.
The hunt for Kratos was very difficult. We were probably a month away from giving up. We were like that close where everybody started having this pull me aside conversation. And you start thinking about the reality of this. Like, maybe this is not gonna happen. Maybe you're not gonna find the perfect person.
My agent had called me, and I wasn't really sold on auditioning for it. I know it sounds silly now. She's like, look, just read it. Just read the sides. And I read the sides, and I called my agent back, and I said, I thought you said this was a video game.
You have seen what I am. And when you lose control, when the rage takes you, that is me in your blood, eating away at any goodness your mother may have passed on to you.
It was literally like the test you do for a TV series or movie.
Run. Run far away from me.
But you have changed. You're not a monster.
That is exactly what I am.
Not to me.
And it just, I couldn't wrap my head around how this would be in a video game.
Come on, Slowpoke.
Ah, this is not me leading.
Excellent. Very good. Right from the get-go, you can see him and Sonny had a really good chemistry. And, you know, he's huge. Ultra violence and sexism, that's God of War. Why aren't we doing that, right? People will say, Kratos can't grow. He's just this, like, anti-hero who just kills things and bathes in their blood. And I'm like, you need to see a therapist. But I think it was a necessity.
If I had my own instrument, it's probably the accordion, because it's weird. And most people think it's lame, but I think it's cool.
Hey, how's it going? How you doing?
I remember meeting Cory, and he told me the story of the game. I think we were there for like an hour and a half. And I felt like I was sitting around a campfire. Like I wanted to just like roast marshmallows and just like, and then what happened? It's the story that draws me musically. That's where I get ideas. And I realize like this game has a really well thought out story and character arc. And I just thought I have to be involved in this.
What is God of War? Is Kratos the mascot, or is Greek mythology the mascot? I was talking to several people from the European marketing groups, because I think what they saw is like, oh, you're just gonna make another God of War with angry Kratos, right? And they're like, that's just not a good idea. And I had talked about, you know, potentially exploring other mythologies. And one of the guys had said, you know, I just don't understand how that would work. You know, what is Kratos gonna pop on a backpack and just walk to Scandinavia? You know, that just seems weird. And I was like, oh, right at that time I realized, like, I was like, oh, well, he doesn't have a backpack, but yeah. Hello. Okay, wow, there we go. So they're gonna go out in the beginning of the game and fulfill the sort of dying wish of the mother. The mother wanted her ashes. She wanted to be burned and her ashes to be spread on the highest peak in all the realms. So that's kind of the driving force throughout the entire story, is that they are taking her ashes and heading to the highest peak. The overall theme of this is that the kid is going to teach Kratos how to be a human. Kratos is going to teach the kid how to be a god, right? Each of them has a piece of them missing, and they kind of help each other out on this buddy road trip movie.
We are in the middle of nowhere right now. And we hear a hissing. There's the culprit. So, another adventure.
Yeah, it was interesting, a cross-section of people too, because it was, we sent programmers, artists, Shannon, I think, went as well.
It's a panorama? You're doing a film.
This is serious. I'm documenting.
You're documenting?
Ready, guys?
Right.
We're getting ready. This is where it all begins. Cue the soundtrack. Well, we made it to New York so far. We're halfway there. You can see the people were much smaller back then. Luke would have been a giant compared to them. That's the way we dress when going to Reykjavik. Smartly.
Great.
Nordic thunder. Dang, 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 dang. I'm gonna get run over. Let's go.
HDR shimmering.
Fishing video.
Iceberg ahead. So we're still here. The tires won't come off, so we called the farmer.
So we gotta dig in here.
Yeah. This is where we live now. Come find us.
It's Shannon. I'm gonna head back to the truck.
There's so much life that's happening around you, and you can feel it almost in the terrain. There was a number of really special moments there for me because of how magical the landscape is and the way that it just captures your soul. As I was looking around at the beauty of Iceland for the first time, it really hit me that the path that we were on was the right path. I could see the game for the first time, truly in my heart.
Ljóst hamri að himni. Ljóst hamri að himni.
The Icelandic language today is the closest language to Old Norse. What that means is acquire in Iceland would be able to read a phonetic spelling of Old Norse and do it correctly. So immediately all eyes were on Iceland as a possible place to do choir.